Just before we start, I mean, do you associate yourself with any religion?
No,
And do you consider yourself to be an atheist?
no.
So where exactly in this spectrum do you know, categorize yourself? I mean, categorizing is not correct, but again, just to know, I mean, where exactly do you
Yes.
fit
Um, I I leave everything open. I I do neither neglect God nor do I say He's there. I simply leave myself open for experience.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Chan. Am I right?
Hello.
I'm
Yes.
pronouncing it right. So
Yes.
Chan is the admin of You Can Do Any Wrong page on Instagram. And so I'll begin with asking Chan, what do you mean by this title? You can't do any wrong.
Yes. First, beautiful to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And so the title, "You Can't Do Any Wrong." That title is seen in the way that we are all on a journey, and in this journey of self-exploration and self-expression, um, I see that it is not required from us to do everything perfect, and through doing things wrong, we gather experience, and that enables us to come closer to ourselves. So even the things which we consider wrong at first might help us for our development. So there is really nothing we can do in a do wrong in a whole sense. Yeah.
How did you come up with this page?
At first, I wrote a single piece of poetry, very short, and I thought about sharing it. I think my uncle suggested it, and then I made an Instagram page. And really, I didn't think that I will upload anything more than that. But now every day I post, and
Yeah.
many people have found their way to this page.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting journey.
It's really good to see your page. If anyone is watching this video, they must go and follow their page, check out their stuff, their stories, their posts. It's really fun to see different perspectives on lives from different philosophers, different enlightened beings. It's really good to
Mm,
see.
mm,
So uh, I want to ask Chan about his own journey. Chan, I want to ask you about your own journey. How have
mm.
you come onto this path of spirituality, or what do you even want to call it? Some people are not comfortable with the spirituality, with the word spirituality, I guess. So how have
Mm.
you found yourself on this path in your life? What's your experience?
I was always interested uh, to have a deeper life experience. So at first, I thought if I gather much money, then it will be a deeper experience. So I looked at how I can acquire material wealth. I read the books. I don't know if you know it. It's Think Big and Get Rich from Napoleon Hill and all those success books. And from there, I got deeper into self-development, so more on the psychological part. Um, and then I came to spirituality, and it looks to me like that is the most direct way. So many paths that we see in our society um, that say first you get rich and then you get happy, but or joyful, but the spiritual way is looks more direct to me. So we go directly to the inner experience and work on that. We don't take the detour over the material world to get back to us. We go to us directly, and that is mm, what is the important thing for me in spirituality also.
But how did you find this? Did you met someone? Did
Um,
someone tell you about this? Did you have an experience? What happened exactly?
mhm. So on my on my journey, for example, in school, I had a time where I really wanted always to be the best. And I found myself suffering deeply from this competitive mindset. And of course, on the way, I met some people who inspired me also, but mostly that from the inside, it told me very clear that I cannot go on always pushing myself, because I saw also the good results, the good grades, and the appreciation from the people. It was what I was going for, but it was not really cheering my spirit up. And when I went to sleep, I still cried, even though everything was great. And so I looked at life, what can be done better so that there is no more suffering. And then I changed my diet, and I changed how I sleep, where I sleep. And then I slowly saw what meditation offers and tried that out. And I then got deeper in all those subjects. And then I saw that that really resonates with me. So that is really what my heart is glowing for.
Oh.
But I mean, during the phase of that suffering, were you able to achieve your goals, or were they left? And I mean, were they not achieved?
Mm-hmm. So during the phase of suffering, which I talked about, where I was there, the goals got achieved. So I was really at the top of my standard in school. I was the best, and there were no higher grades achievable, but yeah, the suffering was still on. And then um, after that were 2 years where that was so intense, and then I really let go of the school thing, and my grades were going down. So all the people thought now I was feeling bad, but that was really the time I was feeling good, because I found something beyond this success push work stuff. Yeah.
That's really nice. So you came upon all this meditation stuff through the internet?
Yes, mostly I had a friend who recommended me some books, and I read a lot of books in the beginning. I bought a lot of books. I read also a little bit. You know how it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And uh, so I read books and tried some practices. At the beginning, I was also a lot in this esoteric. I was interested in the esoteric stuff. What I mean by that is like leaving your body with the astral body and floating around, or achieving telepathy, that I can talk to someone only by thought. That's often in the beginning when someone approaches the spiritual path, because we still think we change something in the outside. So
Yeah.
we have some interesting experience, or we can have abilities that no one else
Did you
has.
have any
And then it
success
will,
with that? Sorry to stop you in between. Did you have any
yeah,
success with that?
I had some success. Like, I wouldn't call it success, but some things happened. Like, for example, I also bought a book, How to See the Aura,
Okay.
like the energy field around
Yeah.
people. And that is really a thing that requires no real spiritual achievement. Like, it's training. It's possible with our human eye. And when we tune into the possibility that it's possible, it's pretty easy to see it. So I I saw the aura of my hand and of trees. And at that time, it needed real concentration. But now, when I am a little meditative, I still see the energy field around things, sometimes with color and sometimes without. And also the astral floating thing. Um, I I was lying down, and I could move my energetical hands outside of my body, but that was about all. And I'm not quite sure how much of that is the real thing and how much of that is only my perception.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So continue with whatever you were saying.
Yes. So first, spiritual seekers tend to want these abilities to change the outside, and then we think that will change our inner condition. But when we become more mature in our spirituality, we go to the to the inner condition directly. So we don't take first the outside and then the inside, as I said before. Do you know what I mean by that? Okay.
I guess, but it would be better if you would elaborate for everyone watching.
So when we take materialistic people, these people want the best car or the best house or the best wife, for example, right? And what these people are trying to do is acquire these things, and then they are expecting to feel happy inside. And when we are trying to get spiritual abilities, so-called spiritual abilities, like seeing the aura or doing certain things, that is still on the outside. That is not our direct inside. And the mature spirituality does not try to do things in order to feel well, but goes directly to the inner condition. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. So moving ahead, you want to ask something?
I mean, there's a very important part of spirituality is to give up attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you go through the traditional path of achieving materialistic stuff
Mm-hmm.
and then leaving it, that is where it's not about, I mean, that's what my perception is, or my understanding is. It's not about that you are feeling unhappy and you have to leave, but it's more about, you've in your head you have been working so hard to collect all that stuff, and you with in due course of time will develop attachment towards those immaterial things, and now it is
Mm-hmm.
your task to give up those attachments and let go of them.
Yeah.
So have you ever thought about achieving materialistic stuff in that sense, to maybe develop a bond and then uh, uh, go a notch higher to give up on that bond?
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you a
So
very, very, very teenage type example would be to get into a relation with any girl of your preference, and in due
yeah,
course of time you will get attached, and but then the task is to go a notch higher, and not is to give up about on hopes and desires on that relationship and just to live that particular
yeah,
moment. So have you ever
yeah.
thought about materialistic world in that sense?
Yes. So I I see. So for example, I let life be my teacher in that sense. So when I go into a relationship, I know that every attachment which I take will cause pain to me. But I also know that the only way to see what attachments I have is to let myself fall into it. And I had a recent example where I went into a relationship like that, and then when that connection got more loose again, I felt the pain in my system, and that pain showed me how much of the relationship was attachment and how much was sharing of my joy. So when I was in that relationship early at the time, and then it got more loose, then the pain was deeper. The suffering was deeper. Now it is not so deep anymore, and not so. The pain is not so destructive, and that's the way I know that I was this time a little bit less attached. That does not mean that I was less loving or less involved. I was really involved, but I was my joy was not dependent so much on the other person as it was before. And also with the material things you mentioned, life will take them away anyway. So we can practice when we lose something, then how much it pains us, there we can see how attached we are to that. Mhm.
That's a really nice answer. I guess it would also be a good answer to the question how to handle relationships in the
Mhm.
modern times. I guess a lot of people would have that question, especially
Yeah.
the kids in the young generation. Whatever you said.
Mhm.
Are you from young generation?
No, I guess because we see these stories day to day that people getting.
But are you young?
So we see people breaking up with their partners and then suffering. So
Mhm.
as Chan just said, that if you're attached, then obviously you will suffer. But if you're just sharing, you're just involved and just sharing your joy, and your joy is not dependent on the other person, then I guess
Mhm.
you will not suffer.
Yes.
So the questions,
Um,
question, okay, yeah, you want to say something?
yes, I might be. I have something. So when we are bonding with a person and then going away, there might be some pain to it, even if we are sharing our joy, because um, when our energy systems get connected and then we separate, there might be like a kind of wound, but it's only pain. It's not necessarily suffering. So we can also be joyful while there is pain in the system, while there is pain in the system. And yes, for the yeah, okay, that's it.
I mean, how do you differentiate between pain and suffering?
Yeah, there is a great distinction. Um, Pain is when I cut my finger off, there will be pain, 100%, because that's a physical response. But there must not necessarily be suffering. When I resist with my mind against the pain and I say it should not be there for my well-being, then there will be suffering because I make my joy. I cannot be in my joy because I resist the pain. But if I am in a really accepted a state of acceptance, then I feel the pain. I don't suppress it. I let the pain be there. Mm, but I see that the pain is a natural response. And when we have emotional pain, or yes, if we have emotional pain, then we can see it's also a natural response, and we can allow it. And it is possible very much to allow the pain and feel the pain and still be joyful because we now see that it is only a response from the system to the situation. Mhm.
The question now arises, Chan, is that now that you're on the spiritual path, now that you're on the
Yeah.
path of finding your inner being, has suffering disappeared now, or do you still suffer?
I still suffer, but I suffer much less and I suffer shorter. So I know that suffering is a state of mind that is also connected to pain. um, Pain is always in the moment. When we project pain into the future, it becomes suffering. And when we project pain into the past, it becomes suffering because then it becomes mental. But pain is always here. And when I am suffering and I recognize that I'm suffering, then I ask myself, is it a real pain that I'm feeling right now? Um, and if yes, I allow that pain to be there. And if no, I understand that it is just a projection or a memory. And then I simply stop recreating it. So, what suffering is simply projecting pain or remembering pain or resisting pain. But when we simply allow the pain to be there, we can still be alive and still be joyful and let the pain express itself, because pain is only life energy which is going to a certain blockage. And if we allow that, we can allow that life energy to flow. Mm, yes.
So
That's pain.
does suffering vanish if we become aware of that suffering instant?
Yeah, yes. Um, that depends on how deep we become aware of the mechanics of suffering. So when we understand, when we see 100% that the suffering is created from within, because from the outside world, only pain can be caused to us. You understand, when someone cuts off our fingers, or when something, even when something messes something with our emotion, that can happen from the outside. But the suffering, the resistance, or the imagination can only come from the inside. When we see that for 100%, then also 100% of the suffering will be gone. Uh, that's what the Buddha said. Suffering is, ignorance is the source of suffering. And the ignorance means that we don't see that it is generated from within. So when we become 100% aware, 100% suffering will be gone. But the further we go of looking inward, the less suffering will be there. So there might be more pain. Even when we look deeper in ourselves, there might be more pain in the system, because now we are allowing all that which has been suppressed, but we are not anymore attached to the object of our pain. So it is pure pain, it is not suffering anymore. And that pain is the pain of growth.
Very nicely put.
Bolo.
Very beautiful. No, yeah, go on.
You mentioned that you've been reading a lot of books and practicing it yourself. Have you ever been a part of any group or ever visited any, how do I say it, seminars? Seminar नहीं होता
Seminars
क्या
or
होता है?
ashrams or anyway.
Yeah, something like that in Germany. Maybe you've been guided to this particular mindset of thinking like this.
I have a friend of mine is a trainer who works with the it's called chi or ki in the Asian countries. Do you know it?
Yeah. Tai Chi.
He's worked. Yeah, right. It's the practice he does is not called Tai Chi, but it's very similar to that. So that seminar was about feeling the body energies and allowing and working with that and letting it flow in the system. And that I felt is a very, very valuable practice. That was a seminar I visited.
What's the practice about?
Oh, feeling the body energy.
Body energy.
That's simply that practice is very simple. It's about becoming aware of the flow of life energy within us that's connected to the breathing. And then we allow it to flow through our body, because in our day-to-day life, we have many blockages. Maybe you will see it when you breathe and you come from your workplace to home. Then you take a deep breath like this, finally home. That's because in your space of your home, you are not having so much blockages like you have outside. Outside, you are more concerned what others think or how to behave. But at home, your system loosens a bit, because you are feeling more safe and more secure to be yourself. And to let ourselves loose like that, our energy system, and letting it flow, that is the practice which I came in contact with at that point. That was very helpful.
So you talked about suffering right now and how to get rid of it.
Mhm.
Would you say this is the ultimate goal of life, or the ultimate goal of spirituality is to get free of suffering?
No.
Or let me rephrase
I,
this. What according to you is the ultimate goal of life?
so when I ask myself such things, I do not try um, to go to that question mentally, because I see the biggest part of the world of my experience is not mental. So I listen to my system. What is my system trying to do? And when I am suffering, my system tells me that is not what I want. So I see that suffering, when I become closer in contact with my system, suffering will go by itself, because that's not what my system wants for itself. When I say system, I mean my physical body system, my emotional system, my energetical system. And I see that my my body, mind, and energy want to become the most alive which they can, and the most conscious, because that feels like a flower opening, that feels very alive and healthy. And so I see my system naturally going in that direction when I allow it to be. So the ultimate goal of spirituality for me is allowing absolutely what's there, and that results in deeper consciousness and in deeper synchronicity of each part. So the body is synchronized with the mind and with the energy, and then we become like kind of a round being. We are whole in ourselves. Yeah. Mhm.
So the ultimate goal of life is to be complete, is to be whole in ourselves.
So everyone who has this question, everyone who is asking him or herself this question, should feel in their own system. Because if I give you the answer, you will put it in a part of your mind and say, okay, this is the goal of life. But when you feel into your own system and see where the system would go if it would be totally free, so you let go of all assumptions and of all tasks, and you sit down and relax, and without entertainment or anything, you sit down and relax for some time. That can be for a few hours or for a few minutes, depending on how important it is to you. And you see that this life wants to express itself and wants to become in full contact with itself. So I don't give this answer in a sentence, because that will not transform anything, because the people who are interested, like you and me, we have watched 1,000 gurus giving us the answer, but the intelligent ones, they say we cannot give you the answer, you must feel into your own system. And when you came in contact with that longing of the system to bloom, to be itself, then you know it, because the mental information is not real knowing. It is simply a piece of knowledge by someone else, and that cannot help us.
Beautiful.
By the journey that you've had, I mean, I'm assuming that you're saying is to try and to make errors.
To
So
make what?
to try and to make errors.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your take on failing in stuff? I mean, I'm very much sure that you mentioned the phase of suffering where the grades were not appropriate. So what's your take on failure? What is failure for in terms of real life? What's failure in terms of when we look at from spiritual life, from spirituality, and how does one deal with failure? I mean, what's the true failure?
Okay. So when we take a man with a sword, okay, and he tries to cut a piece of wood in half, and that is his goal, and he's cutting, but the sword goes 2 centimeters left, and he doesn't cut the wood. For him, it is failure, because that was his goal. But for existence, simply the sword came to the left spot. Existence has no idea of failure. And for our personal journey, I think failure is great, because one thing is, if we identify ourselves with the success, so I can be happy when I can do this or that, and we can't do it, of course we suffer, because we identified our inner circumstance with that. But when we simply allow ourselves to be playful, then failure can become a great thing. So you see, with my channel, Instagram channel, or with the things I do with the art, I am failing. I am failing often. When I have a special image in mind and I do something, I fail. But if I would demand perfection of myself, then I would have no posts on my page, because I would be too afraid that I can't fulfill this perfection. I simply put it out, and maybe it's not 100% like I thought, but it becomes better and better. And also, failing is the way to success. When we take nature, for example, the bones break 1,000 times of a living creature, and then nature knows where to put stronger bones, and then it knows where to put lighter bones, where to put stronger bones. But this evolution is always trying, always a new generation, new generation, new generation, and this new generations are formed by nature, what is needed for this being to live, and then then at a certain point it fits perfectly. So you see a fish, how it's made, that it can swim perfectly to the water. The form, that form needed so much time, because the water needed to flow to millions of beings and form their structure exactly how it must be to flow perfectly through the water. And this new tries and new tries we do are then always a little bit better. And the first try that is failing, that might be failing, is not worse than the 1,000th try, which will be maybe a success, because the wanting is the same. I want to express myself, find expression to my being by doing something. And when it works, great. But if it doesn't, there is experience. Yeah. And now I'm very playful with failure, because I see that it is very vital to myself, because I learned something about myself.
You should always be playful with life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Coming on, I had a couple of more questions to get on to. You wanna ask?
Yeah.
Firstly, about the enlightened beings. Whom do you call the enlightened beings? Many people have this stigma in their mind that they don't want to follow any human being approaching
Yeah.
spirituality or God or any masters or any gurus.
Yeah.
So they're afraid uh, that that whomsoever they may be following, they may turn out to be fake, or they may misguide them, or whatever it is. So most people go about thinking that they find their own path, and they'll say just that they'll find it on their own. Then they'll read books, watch videos on the internet, and they'll go about it. So what do you think about enlightened beings?
Yeah. So I had this question and this problem too,
Okay.
earlier in my spiritual journey.
Okay.
Um, I when we are in a confused state of mind, when we don't know what is up and what is down, and when we are not in contact um, with our own intuition, then it is impossible to choose what is right said or what is wrong said, because we cannot know when someone is talking about an energetical situation, and this energetical dimension of life is not yet in our experience. We cannot know if what he's saying is true. And now it is easy for me because when someone is speaking, I can feel inside myself, I can feel the resonance of my system. So, for example, when Sadhguru is saying something or Osho is saying something, I don't need to think. I don't need to think. Wait. Excuse me. So when Osho is saying something, I don't need to think, oh, he has a lot of Rolls Royce and there are a lot of women around him. Is he a legit guru or is he not? I listen to the statement and I listen to the inside of myself. What is my system responding to that statement? And if my heart glows up and if I feel that is truth, then I can then I see what it is. But when it is simply going to my mental space and nothing is happening, then I see maybe that's not for me at the moment. But now the question is, how can someone who has not that contact with him or herself know what is real spirituality and what is nonsense? I would say at the beginning, simplify your spirituality. So do not go for these complicated things. Simply, when someone says something, see if it is in resonance with your own experience, with the deepest experience that you have right now. For example, someone who is in a depressed state of anger, for example, then they might think, I hate the whole world and the whole world is separated from me. But then when he or her has a memory of sitting in the garden and be connected to the earth and to the beings around him, a joyful moment, then you will see that the joy is deeper than the suffering. So you know that this connected reality is deeper than a separated reality. And then you can. So the first steps of spirituality are really a jump, because our eyes are still closed. We have to throw ourselves into it. We have to look at a lot of things, go through a lot of experience, and then slowly we become intuitive about what fits to us and what not. So at the beginning, I see there is very little a beginner can do to decide what is right for me and what is wrong. So I would say to a beginner who does not know if he should listen to a guru or not, listen to different teachers and gurus. Inform yourself about different paths, about yoga, about Zen meditation, about shamanic practices. Read it, and that which finds resonance with you, you will naturally go deeper on that. Because this spiritual aspiration, life also wants to come in contact with you. So life will give you that which makes yourself go deeper. And so when someone says, and how do I know if I then be misled, or if I come into a cult, or if I follow then a god or a religion that does not help me, but which uses me and which makes myself smaller instead of more whole, then you must see is this religion interested in the joyful being individual, in the individual being joyful and more alive? And is this path giving me a transformation in this world? Because when a religion says simply do this, and then afterlife, when you left your body, then it will be beautiful, we cannot really work with that. When transformation must happen in this moment, because there is no other moment for transformation to happen. And if a path is oriented to transform yourself here and to transform yourself into a more alive and conscious being, then the chances are good that this path is a path that is life oriented and that is positive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, very nice. Uh, Most of the questions are being answered very beautifully. I really want to comment upon your hair. It's it's very pretty. Have you like purposely grown it out? Like, I mean, purposely not cut it?
Kind of. So I don't like to go to the to the hair cutter,
Okay.
because I don't know, I didn't like it as a kid and I still don't like it. And so a few years ago I had my hair and I thought I was really attached to my hair, so I cut it all off. I cut myself bald, like no hair at all.
Okay.
And then till then I'm letting it grow and I don't feel like cutting it at the moment.
How long has it been since it's been growing?
Maybe 3 years. Now it's till my
Nice.
solar plexus. It's growing to my solar plexus, because they are curled. They appear shorter than they really are. They are a little bit longer than they appear.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have also a very beautiful beard. I
Yeah.
love to see it.
Thank you. I also don't cut it. My hair is also actually very long, actually longer than you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I like your hair. It's really, really pretty.
Thank you. Yeah, if I would have a beard, I would also let it grow, but there is no beard coming
Okay.
at this age.
It'll grow sooner or later. Sooner
Mhm.
or later on, it will grow, I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I also see that you've posted stuff about psychedelic substances and LSD and mushrooms and uh, whatnot. So what is your take on that?
Yeah. My take on that is, so when a beginner, as we said, someone who does not know what a guru really is because he cannot feel into it, or what he should take, but someone who is mentally stable and someone who is rooted in life. So he is functioning, of his way of life is, he is a seeker, he's interested, but he does not know what the next step is. So someone like that, for these people, psychedelic substances like LSD, psilocybin, that is the mushrooms, or these different things which I counted, might be helpful, because when we take these substances in and become a little bit quiet, and maybe we are in a forest, it is very easy to see the life energy flowing through the trees and to feel the resonance and to feel the energy flowing within oneself. These experiences become more accessible. So we have a glimpse into a samadhi, a short space where we can see what it is like. And then after these experiences, we have a taste for what our system really wants. So I say these things, but what is important to mention is before I made my first psychedelic journey, I spent hours and hours on research and also hours and hours of preparation. So there are a few videos which I suggested on my page. When we want to take on this journey, there is a lot of things. We need to have the right surrounding which we go into. Maybe we need to have someone who is experienced in taking those psychedelic journey with us. We need to consider the dose. We need to consider the substance. We need to consider what mindset we go into these things to have experience which is really helping our development. Because many people take psychedelic substances on parties just to have a good time. But that is, of course, not what spiritual seekers are aiming for. We want to come deeper in contact with ourselves. And when we do the right research, we do the right preparation, then that can benefit us. It benefited me.
So, can you describe your experience? How did you go about it?
Yeah, I tried different substances. I tried many of the classic psychedelics. And for my first journey, for example, that was with either it was LSD or psilocybin mushrooms. So first I did my research, what needs to be done.
Okay. Is it legal in your where you live?
I had a legal version of the substance. Not everything is legal, but that's the version which I had was legal. Most things are not legal.
Okay.
So I did research over about a month, and then I did preparation, mental preparation, and then I took a low dose of the substance and I went into the woods.
Did you take LSD or mushrooms?
Yeah, LSD at the first time, I think. LSD it was. And then I let the experience unfold. So
you went out in the woods?
I was in the woods, yes, in the forest.
Okay.
Most of the time.
And were you alone or with someone?
I was alone. Okay. But the dose which I took at the first time was not a dose which really knocks you off. It was a beginner's dose. Like it was very light. I could walk around and I could look and I was still very clear, but I had a light experience of the LSD, and then I went to some higher doses after that. Yes.
So, can you describe any of your experience with the higher doses?
So, with higher doses, with LSD and the psychedelics, it's in this way. They don't make you feel good necessarily. When the tendency of feeling good is inside you, that gets stronger. But when the tendency of feeling a bad feeling, then that gets stronger. And that's also why they are non-addictive, because if you're feeling bad and, for example, take heroin, which is not a psychedelic, you feel good anyway. But with a psychedelic, that can't happen. So I took higher doses and I went through pain which was in my system and which was not able to express itself. But when my system opened up with the substance, I went through that pain. And in many experiences which I have, there were very joyful phases because my being was opening up. And there were also phases of suffering because I became aware of shadows which I was carrying with myself. And then I went through these painful things, and then joy came again. So the high doses, of course, sometimes the visuals get stronger. with low doses, you maybe see the floor moving a little bit, like patterns moving a little bit. And with high doses, you maybe see stronger visuals on the walls and everything. So
How long did the higher dose last? The trip last, like how many hours?
LSD is about 8 to 12 hours. It's
Um,
very long.
and have you tried
Much,
mushrooms also?
yes, I have tried mushrooms also. Mushrooms are shorter. They are 4 to 6 hours.
Okay.
And also a distinction in the feeling. So mushrooms are growing naturally, and depending on who raised the mushrooms, who grows them, and what strain is used, the experience is also different. I um, I made some beautiful experiences also with mushrooms, but I would say, so if someone wants to try it, they really need to go deep into the research, and they also need to reflect deeply why they want to do it. Because if someone wants to escape reality with psychedelics, then it can be, so in the best case, it does nothing to you, because in the best case, it's simply you go through experience and it doesn't transform you. But it can be also that that this, when we go with the wrong reason into these things, that they confuse us. So do your research. Someone should do his research and reflect deeply what is the motivation to do psychedelics.
So, like, a few people have described, or we also read about Ram Dass, how when he took psilocybin, he said that he started identifying with the soul for a brief moment. Did something like that happen with you also?
Yeah. So when someone is a little bit aware of the energies within him, when we fold our hands, we might feel that our system is becomes a little bit more round. Or when we become a little silent and we breathe a little deeper, we might feel that quietness and silence is coming in our being. So on psychedelics, these things are enhanced, very large. So for example, if I fold my hands on a high dose on LSD, that was my case, then it feels like the whole universe is folding with me, and there is a deep oneness. And yes, like these connective experiences happened to me also.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
Would you like to share any fun experience with us? Something that
Mhm.
amazed you, something fun, or any negative experience? Anything you'd like to
Yes.
share?
Um, so there are a lot of fun experiences. For example, when I'm on psychedelics and I have a piece of fruit in my hand, then I can really see that this fruit is something alive. So I can see it moving, or I can see it. It looks like a real an alive being, and it is very funny to have something, a piece of fruit or a berry in your hand, and then you eat it, and you really feel the life energy of that thing flowing into your body. That is really funny. And some negative experiences, of course. So much of the reality which we are carrying with us in a day-to-day basis is made up, it's fake. So when we think I am in this religion, or I am the strongest man on the street, these things are made up, but we cling to them because we take them as part of our personality. And on a high dose of psychedelics, it might be that these things are completely washed away. And then we stand there and a large part of our personality is simply gone. And when we are identified with it, that will be very, very painful. So after the experience, it might come to us as a blessing because we are not so hooked anymore on our personality, but during the experience, it can be very nasty. And another funny thing is when we are on a substance, that often happens with mushrooms, and we forget that we took mushrooms.
Oh.
That should not happen. There should always be a reminder, because as long as we know that we are on mushrooms, we know that every experience is temporary. So if the floor is moving and we have no orientation, we know, it's because of the mushrooms, it's okay, it will go soon. But if we forget that we are on mushrooms, we think we will live our rest of our lives with that condition, because that's the state of mind we are in. And that can also become very unpleasant. Yeah. So the preparation should be good before we enter in such an experience. Yeah.
हाँ जी,
और कुछ है आपका?
आप बताओ.
आपका हो गया?
मेरा तो हो गया.
हो गया?
हाँ.
One final question that I have is that you've clearly mentioned in having different experiences for self development and to connect with inner self. So when you think in terms of an individual, what you're saying is correct, but let's assume you are no longer an individual, you are surrounded by society. So an experience for one can be suffering for someone else. So how does one cope up with that baggage of, let's assume, you can say it as guilt, but it's not necessarily guilt. But point being that you might be out there experiencing something, but it might cause suffering for someone else. So how does
Yeah.
one cope up with that?
So when we come into a more whole understanding of life, we see that we have a certain responsibility. We see that our action might cause pain to someone else. But we also see the responsibility of each being for itself. So when when I am in the company of a person, when I'm with a person and I want to leave, because my inside says I should leave now, but the person wants me to stay. Of course, my leaving will cause pain to the person, and I know that. But I am not responsible for the joy of that being. I am respectful and I try to hurt the person with my choices as little as possible. But if I make myself responsible for their joy, I become a slave to their needs. And even if I become a slave to their needs and do everything which they demand from me, there still can be no happiness in each of us, because as long as this person thinks that her joy depends on me or his joy depends on me, it cannot truly come from the inside. It's not real. So I see that I have responsibility towards other beings to be respectful to their space, to not physically harm them, to be as life affirming as it is possible for me. But I also see that each being has this responsibility for him or herself. And that is a blessing. So when we are in a relationship with a partner and they leave us and we feel this emptiness, then we know how much of our joy depended on that person. And that's that can never work on a long term. Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll end up with one final question I want to ask you is
अभी
how
तो नहीं खत्म हो गए हैं.
फिर आ गया दिमाग में आ गया. According to you, how do you find liberation?
Yeah. So when I'm not now speaking about the ultimate liberation, but I'm also talking about the ultimate liberation because I feel that it's connected. So
Okay.
when I see a pattern falling off myself, a pattern of thought. So at first I maybe thought that when a pattern of thought that constrained me, that was narrowing my perspective, or an energetical blockage. For example, if I was in a relationship and I got hurt from it, then I closed my heart and don't open it because I am fearful of the pain. When this opens up again and I become vulnerable, I know new pain can come, but also now the love is able to flow. And I feel that my system becomes more open and can take more of reality into it. So now it is possible for me to, when a guru makes two statements and they are contradictory, they don't fit together, now I can allow that. I can see that this is true and this is true, even if it seems they're paradoxical. So because I become more wide and I become more sensible, and that is this opening up for me is liberation. So now when I talk about it, one who doesn't experience it cannot know it. But as soon as someone experiences it, they will say, oh, that's what all the people talked about. That was what they were meaning with their descriptions. But imagining does not help us. So we need to give ourselves to this openness and surrender to this experience of this moment. And then this opening can happen. And then we will experience it for ourselves. Yeah, that is liberation for me.
To open up.
To open up, yes.
Nice. And by opening up, do you think we'd be free of suffering also?
Yes, because what makes us suffering is the convictions, the patterns which we carry. We say pain is bad, there should not be pain. And of course, we cannot avoid pain. Then pain comes and we suffer because we resist. But as soon as we open up and say pain is simply there, we let this pattern go that pain is bad. We say pain is simply there. Then it comes into the system and it leaves again, like everything else. Our inner space is a space of emptiness, and anger and pain and happiness, they come and they go. And as soon as we let this emptiness open and free, these things come, they flow through us, they go through us. And when pain comes and we have a resistance, we actually keep it in our system, we prolong it, and that's the suffering. When we take it away, the pain will come, flow through us for some time and go away. And this pain now becomes shorter, very much short. It's not held in our system because of the resistance. When the resistance is gone, it flows free and goes again. Yeah. So when we become the opener and the freer we become, the more the things which enter our system are leaving again. Yeah, but a being that opens up at first might suffer more, because all the time which we have been living for 15, 30, 45 years, we have kept all the pain down, we have kept all the suffering down, and made ourselves insensitive to our system. Now, if we open up, maybe at the surface, there might be still pain which needs to be experienced. So for many beings, the beginning of the spiritual journey can be suffering. But that's natural. It comes up, and the freer we become, the freer it goes away again.
Yeah, so I guess everyone who'll hear this will love your beautiful words. Anything more you got to say?
No, again, thank you very much for your time and your experiences, because not everyone is quite open to at least share experience about mushrooms and LSD at least.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for the invitation. It was a really beautiful conversation. Really
Yeah,
beautiful.
I
I
really
enjoyed
enjoyed
it
it.
much.